Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. On this cold and snowy day for much of the eastern part of the country, IBM, one of the priciest and therefore one of the most important stocks in the price-weighted Dow index, tried its best to warm things up on Wall Street. The world's largest technology services company reported better than expected earnings in its latest quarter. It made $6.13 a share. That's 14 cents better than the consensus forecast. But the good news sort of ended there. Margins narrowed ever so slightly, and revenue declined 5%, ending about $500 million short of estimates. That sent shares initially lower in late trading today, as you see on that graphic. Josh Lipton joins us now from Silicon Valley with more on IBM's earnings. Josh, what is the key takeaway from these results?
Yeah, Tyler, listen, IBM reports, and the big number investors focused on, $27.7 billion. Now, that was IBM's revenue for the fourth quarter, and it was a miss. Analysts covering IBM, they had wanted to see more like $28.3 billion. IBM CFO Martin Schroeder, on the call with analysts, said some of IBM's business segments appeared solid, like software, where revenue was up 4%. Says IBM has moved more aggressively into the cloud. Services saw revenue also edge higher, but the pain was really in hardware, where revenue tumbled. There were reports say that Lenovo is interested in IBM's server business, which the company, has been looking to divest. Importantly, though, besides that disappointing revenue number, IBM, though, did reiterate its commitment to generating at least $20 in EPS in 2015. Tyler?
All right, Josh, thank you very much.
Our next guest is a big believer in Big Blue. IBM is on his buy list. Joining us now, Dan Morgan, Senior Portfolio Manager at Synovus Trust. And Dan, thanks for joining us.
Hi, Susie.
All right, so make your case for owning IBM. What does it have going for it?
Well, there's no doubt that this quarter in terms of revenue was disappointing, and hardware continues to be disappointing. But you look at some of their growth drivers in terms of some of the new initiatives that they've gotten involved in the last couple of quarters. Very good growth in their cloud business. It was up 69%. You look at business analytics, was up 9%. Smarter Planet was up 20%. So that's really going to be the key for them going forward, is obviously continuing to show progression in the software area. That was up 4%. The big drag, as you know, Susie, is hardware. That was a really tough area this quarter. And if they can spin off to Lenovo like they did their PC unit, which was a great move when you look at the problems that Dell and HP have had in that space, that might be the key for them going forward to try to really jumpstart revenues again.
Dan, you say that Ginny Rometty's success or failure will be determined by her ability to drive the top line, but so far that hasn't happened. 7 consecutive quarters of declining revenue. What's going to change that?
Well, hopefully some of these growth drivers, like I mentioned, to try to get that going again. And potential improvements in China and some of these other markets. The most recent quarter, I believe, their emerging markets were down significantly. So hopeful that that can get going for them. But really, her success, I think, is going to be determined, like you said, the ability to drive revenues and the ability of these new areas, these growth drivers that I just mentioned, to really get going and pick up the whole ship to rise, so to speak, which has been a struggle for IBM, as you mentioned, on the top line.
Dan, you just mentioned China, and IBM does get a lot of its business from China, although we heard over the weekend that even China's economy is slowing down from that big engine of growth that it had. I mean, to what extent is China a big drag on IBM's earnings?
Well, obviously on this quarter, that particular unit hurt a lot. So, China is a faster growing economy than the U.S., but they're not growing as fast as they have in the past. I don't think it's a drag. It's something that hopefully down the road will pick back up again. But it was a tough quarter, but you look at the installation base, the huge amount of markets that IBM is involved in, the tremendous reoccurring revenue through their services business. They're really kind of just a steady Eddie technology company, and hopefully China will recover, and that will help them going forward.
Ms. Rometty had a couple of tough acts to follow in Mr. Palmisano, Mr. Gerstner. How do you grade her tenure so far, or is it just too early to grade it at all? And if not, why not?
Yeah, Tyler, you're right. I mean, the jury is still out. I mean, again, we got to see how these things work out for her going forward. She's been there, what, 2 years, a short period of time. So It's too early to see if she can really pull this off and really get that top line going.
Real quickly, Dan, we just have a few seconds left. You have a buy on the stock. That's where we started our conversation. What's your target for 2014 in terms of IBM stock at 189 trading now?
Yeah, Susie, I'm not an analyst, so I don't have price targets. I'm a portfolio manager. We have about 355,000 shares of the stock, so we still believe in it in the long run. It's a conservative, patient, dividend technology stock. That's the best way to sum it up.
That's fair enough. Thank you so much, Dan. Dan Morgan, Senior Portfolio Manager at Synovus Trust.